Another really fundamental concept is reverting a transaction. For this, we can call revert in Solidity. Now, what does reverting mean and why do we need it? If we come to a point when executing our function where something isn't as expected, then we can abandon the whole transaction. If this happens during execution inside the Ethereum virtual machine, nodes will detect the revert and not write any of the state changes from this transaction. And most commonly, users would already be notified about a reverting transaction before even sending it, since the wallet will simulate a transaction on the current blockchain and detect any reverts. So we could, for example, check if our random number is 9, and if not, we revert. And since this is such a common pattern to check if something, then revert, Solidity has its own keyword for this. We can just write require random number is 9. This is the same thing as what we had before here. It's just a shorter way to write this. And then we can also provide a message for reverting. This is what a user would see in his wallet if the transaction simulation done by the wallet failed. And if it failed after you submitted a transaction, you could see this message, for example, in Etherscan. So let's add a require to our function now here. For example, require random number less than 5 with a message, this will always happen. So let's deploy it and have a look at this. Let's use the JavaScript VM. And now let's pass 1 Ether again. And now in this tab here, you can see transaction reverted and the message, this will always happen. We still lost a very small amount because for a failed transaction, you still have to pay a small penalty, but it's much less than what the normal gas cost would have been. And now lastly, a little trick I want to show you for debugging is you can actually import a tool from Hardhat here in Remix. To do this, let's write here import hardhat console.sol. And now in our function here, before the require, we can write console.log. This was the random number. If we now deploy this again and call our pay me back less with 1 Ether, we of course get the revert still, but now we have additional logging output, which is very useful for debugging, especially because this works even if the transaction is reverted.